Have you ever met a guy that you wanted to hate? And when you went to put your straps
peace and love, peace and love, peace. What it do, fam? What it do? YouTube, world, internet world, planet, globe, universe, all that fly stuff. What it do, y'all? This is yours truly, Pal Shadows, General of the House of Hip Step, also known as author P.E. McCallum, author of this great and wonderful book, NGR, What Does It Mean? An expose on the N-word from a hip-hop perspective, because this is hip-hop, baby. And this is my book, and this is the platform to discuss things surrounding the N-word in my book. And we're back with another good and informative video on issues surrounding the N-word. And today, we're just going to have some fun because I'm back again. Y'all know these videos have been sporadic because I've been real busy in my life. I'm an entertainer for real. And I have a lot of other things going on, you know, with my career, music and whatnot, and other things that I'm doing. So I'm not always able to come on a lot, but I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. Those of y'all that are rocking with this platform, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all, man. You know, just continue to rock with me. I hope y'all had an opportunity to run out and get a copy of my book. It's available on Amazon. Look, in paperback, audiobook, Kindle, any way you want. How do you want it? I got it. So look, go and get your copy so that as I talk about and I discuss things, you can follow along and you can, you know, you can add to the conversation. This is about dialogue, y'all. Peace and love. We have a good video today that we're going to be reviewing on the platform. And this video is Afroman, right? It's taken from Poetic Flacco channel. So salute to Poetic Flacco. Run out, subscribe to his channel. And I like his discussions because I use Poetic Flacco because I like his aspects on our culture. And he always addresses when these various people use the N-word and when it comes up in conversations. And he always has some really enlightening and progressive things to say. So today he has Afroman on his channel. And the title of this video is, "This Channel 5 interview was ruining his life." And that's a Channel 5 interview that Afroman did. Because, you know, Afroman, the artist, he has been in the news lately, right? Because he just won a court case against, I believe it's the Adams County Sheriff's Department, where they broke into his house. They, you know, I mean, cops don't technically break into your house, but they came in his house, broke his door down, scared his kids, went through all his things, saying they was looking for drugs and kidnapping victims, you know, and he made a series of songs, you know, to kind of clap back at the Adams County Sheriff's Department. And, you know, it was his way of, like, you know, getting back at them and also making some money for the damage that they did. You know what I mean? They broke his door down. They messed up his gate and did all this kind of stuff. And he won. So then after he made these songs about them and what they did, they sued him. And he won that court case, that civil lawsuit. They did not win that lawsuit. And that was a big W. You know, that was a big W for hip hop. Not only for Afroman, but for music, for hip hop in general, and specifically, and just all around for the culture. Because, you know, the Two Live Crew had a similar situation back in the 80s, where it was a lot of people saying that their music was too vulgar, and that's the reason that you have parental advisory stickers on CDs and records and tapes back in the day. They used to put a little parental advisory sticker when we used to buy tapes, when we used to buy CDs. And we don't do that anymore. But so you don't need a parental advisory sticker really on a YouTube video, right? Maybe you do. Maybe we need to bring the parental advisory sticker back. You know, I don't know if that would help keep some of these younger kids from, make some of these parents aware and help keep some of these young minds and some of these young ears a little bit more wholesome. I don't know if that helps or not. Does it? But anyway, that's what happened. And that's why he's doing this interview, because of course now he's back in the spotlight because of this court case and his landmark win against that sheriff's department. And so, you know, people are getting back interested in what Afroman has to say. And not only just about his court case, but about other things. And then somehow in this Channel 5 interview, it went the way of talking about the N-word and how other people use the N-word. And Afroman has some really strong stances on other cultures using the N-word, other ethnicities and races of people using the N-word. And specifically Mexicans, because you got to understand that Afroman is from LA, right? And LA is a city, I lived in LA for a long time, and I can verify that LA is a city that, you know, the Black and indigenous people of LA and the Mexican people in LA, the dynamics between the two is very interesting. You know, there's hostility there, there's love there, there's shared circumstances of history, of social circumstances, of how they're being treated by the police, and both being indigenous people to the Americas. They have a shared history, but it's very complicated in LA because in the prisons in California, in particular in California, the prisons are separated and divided by race. And the Mexicans and Blacks, who have so much in common socially, historically, both being indigenous people, both being oppressed peoples in the Americas, both being victims of the school to prison pipeline and of the prison industrial complex, both being, you know, oppressed by the same system, you know, so they have a lot in common. But yet in the prison system, I think the orchestrators of the system has done a great job, a terrific job of keeping us divided and keeping them divided. But let's look at this, you know, excuse the long intro, but I had to set it up today because it's layered. But let's get right into the video and hear what Afroman has to say about these other groups of people using the N-word. And that's something that I do address in my book, NGR, What Does It Mean? So let's check it. Let's listen to a little bit and check it out.
California Mexicans are unsuccessfully trying to cancel Afroman because he's speaking out against them saying the N-word, which is just on trend with what I've already said on this channel, which is non-Blacks feel more entitled to the N-word than actual Black people. Have you ever tried to tell a LA Asian they can't say the N-word? They will smoke you, right, if you tell them they can't say the N-word. That's how entitled they feel to that word. So when Afroman did an interview with Channel 5, and Afroman is relaying why he don't like anybody using the word, especially non-Black people, the Mexicans were very unhappy about what he had to say. He even spoke on Lefty Gunplay as well.
And
so right there, right off the rip, he's addressing how what I said about, you know, California, the relationship between Black and indigenous people and Mexican indigenous folks is very complicated, and it's a lot of tension there. All right, so that's right off the rip. He lets you know. So
another thing I wanted to talk about too is I saw you don't say the N-word in your music. What kind of prompted that choice?
Well, first of all, the N-word is the most, I'm trying to find that word, it's said in this, it's the most offensive word in the English language. I don't like.
All right, you heard what Afroman just said. The N-word is the most offensive word in the English language. And if you look in my book, on page 10, in the intro, right? In the intro, all right, in my book, it says, according to dictionary.com, the N-word is probably the most offensive word in the English language. We know about the British colonizers and slave traders who seem to love to use the N-word, according to what we've seen, read, and heard about in movies, books, and testimonials. It has become such a devastating word to our American consciousness that it's hard not to cringe when you hear it with the hard R, right? But yeah, the N-word is considered the most offensive word in the English language.
Like being greeted with it. I don't address my brothers and sisters with it. Like if you're on the Lakers, you're not going to say Lakers. Or if you're an Englishman, you're not going to walk around saying, hey, what's up, Limey? You know what I'm saying? If you're a Mexican, you're not going to walk around going, hey, Beaner, what's happening? Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
They don't do that.
I don't feel Black people should disrespect the home team.
It's because I watched the full interview that I kind of see it as absurd that they're trying to cancel this man. Because if you watch the interview, he actually held black people accountable first. He actually spent a large portion of this interview talking about how black folks can be better.
You know, I know in America, they hear it so much. Like if I had give me a bunch of white kids.
All right.
They're all
here.
Yeah, they're all give them to me as babies.
Here you go.
Right? All right. And I when I see it, I say, hunky, 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 hunky. I separate them from the older white people that love them. The older white people that's going to give them dignity and pride and say, hey, we're Americans. We're white people. I separate them from them people. And I got them over here in my little chicken coop. And I'm like, you're a honky, 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 honky. What are those little white kids going to grow up saying?
Cracker, honky.
And then they're going to shake. They're going to be like, what's up, my honky? They're going to have pride when they say it. Hey, what's up, honky?
Yeah.
Innocent and uninformed, because I done separated them from the people that will give them the dignity and pride to say that. So I'm thinking hundreds of years ago, the black people that couldn't speak English, nigga, 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 nigga. Sometimes I watch a movie, the slave.
Yo, let's interject something right here. You know, what he said right there was very deep. You know, he's talking about psychological conditioning, right? And, you know, we have psychological conditioning in situations with people in America, right? Particularly black and indigenous people, because, you know, a big argument is that we were separated on the plantation from our elders, you know. And then there's debate about whether we were brought over from Africa to the Americas on slave ships by the slave traders, or whether or not we were already here in the Americas. There's a big debate about that. And I'm one of those people who has knowledge and has done research to understand that, yes, most of the black and indigenous people that were enslaved in America were already in the Americas. And it was less that were brought over here from Africa. Some were brought over from Africa, but it was less brought from Africa than was already over here and enslaved. But, you know, I just want to interject here because I want to remind everybody that my book is not just talking about the N-word from a perspective that you are most familiar with it, which is white people began calling us the N-word, you know, due to racism and white supremacy. And after so many hundreds of years of nigga, 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 we began to embrace the term ourselves as a term of endearment, etc. During my research, I found out that only some of that is partially true, because actually it really began when you go way back. And we have to remember that it's important to go back before slavery. When you're in researching black and indigenous history, black folks' history in America, right? It's important to go back before slavery, because this is where the jewels really lie. This is where the real history is, where the real knowledge about our people is. You know what I'm saying? After we become enslaved and colonized, it changes significantly. You know what I'm saying? And it's a whole different thing going on. But, you know, and it's not as rich. And it doesn't leave you with the answers that you're looking for. And it doesn't leave you with the richness that you're really trying to find. Got to go before that. But going before that, as I do in my book, we found that the N-word originally comes from Africa. And it was a word that was originally used among African people. Afroman probably hasn't heard this before. That's why I encourage all y'all to go get my book. But I would love for him and people like him to know and read and understand that the N-word originally was used in Africa among Africans. First, it appears in the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics as NGR. And I have that book, an Egyptian Hieroglyphic Dictionary by E.A. Wallace Budge, that explains that shows you all these different N-words, NGR words in the hieroglyphics, and they all refer to gods and goddesses, every last one of them, every N-word in there. Then you have in ancient, the land of Kush, which is the ancient term for the modern name, you know, which is Ethiopia. Ethiopia was called Kush, and in Kush, when Ethiopia was called Kush, their rulers were called Neguses, right? And Negus is an ancient Ge'ez word that means emperor or ruler. Now, as the Greeks, Afroman's going to talk about the Greeks invading Egypt.
Like, whose nigga is you? You know, they don't know no better. They don't know they're the original man God created. They don't know they invented the pyramid. They don't know the Moors took knowledge to the Greeks and the Egyptians took, and the Moors brought knowledge to Spain and Europe. They don't know they're these intellectual people. All they know is what this guy that don't like them told them. That's
so when he was talking about the Greeks there, what he means is that the Greeks, when they invaded Egypt, right? Or as it was known then, Kemet, you know, they found the Ngers, the Netgers, the Ngrs, right, ruling, and they were the kings. They found the Ngrs, so they began to call us the Nigers, the Ngrs, which in their language became Niger. Niger is the Latin or the word or the Greek word for black, because they were in the land of the black soil, the black people, etc. So Niger became the Greek word for our people and for that territory. That became the European word, Niger. So Niger is where we began to see some of the modern English and modern European origins for the N-word.
Well, I don't like the N-word. I don't think black people should call themselves that. I guess that's it.
So if this man spent a large portion of his time breaking down and explaining why he don't think black people should use the N-word, why would any other race feel offended that he says they shouldn't use the N-word? Now, the argument for other races, like when we bring up, hey, man, like, you know, like Mexicans or Asians, they wouldn't appreciate if a black man walked up to them and called them racial slurs. Their argument is, well, there's no racial slur for us that's used at a term of endearment. And then our response is, yeah, that's because you guys don't have the history that we have, right? Y'all don't have a word that was used to dehumanize you on a systematic level, right? A word so terrifying that we had to take it and use it as a term of empowerment to get rid of generational trauma. Y'all don't have that. Y'all was never 3/5 of human beings. So that's our response. And right, like no other race can really identify with what it means to truly be called the N-word and truly be considered the N-word. I'm not talking about growing up in a black community and black folks consider you one of their own. I'm talking about this country and this system truly seeing you in their lands as an N-word. If you don't know how that feels, you can't feel entitled to that word. That's just my opinion, though. Now, I rock with my Mexicans, I rock with my Asians. I personally have Mexican friends who use the N-word, right? I'm patient. I'm giving them time to grow, right? Steven used the N-word. Duno used the N-word. Lush, one who's an honorary Mexican, he used the N-word, right? But I'm giving them time to learn, grow, and develop, right? I'm not about to, like make you my enemy because you used the word. I'm just telling you it's not cool, and I hope you one day develop, right? Right? Now, Afroman goes in, and what he speaks...
That was very, very, very well spoken by Poetic Flacco. Salute to you, man, on how you broke that down. That was I like that. But I want to reiterate to you that, to Poetic Flacco and to Afroman, that again, the N-word was a word that originally meant something positive towards our people. During this time when we were the kings, when we were King Tuts and Nefertiti's and, Ramses and Akhenaten and all these people, we were the Ngers, the Ngrs. We were the kings. And that's what the word meant. People don't know that. That's why I want you to get my book so you can find out that the word was translated by the Europeans as Niger, also Nagar. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of different variations of the N-word, and then finally Nigger, as we know it today. I want to read a passage from my book. This is on page 204. And this is under the section, this is under the outro. All right. Let's start here. Does nigger mean a lazy person? Not anymore. I can remember it meaning a lazy or ignorant person. Then it went into being defined as a negative epithet for black people. However, while conducting research for this expose, I can no longer find that definition. As I point out earlier, the Oxford Languages definition for the N-word is noun, offensive, a contemptuous word or term for a black or dark-skinned person. And Merriam-Webster defines it as nigger, offensive. 2, 1, offensive, below used as an insulting and contemptuous term for a black person, offensive. Used as an insulting and contemptuous term for a member of any dark-skinned race. 3, now often offensive, a member of a class or group of people who are systematically subjected to discrimination and unfair treatment. Neither one of these dictionary definitions say anything about being lazy or ignorant. So the term no longer means lazy or ignorant. You know what I'm saying? It means a completely offensive word, an offensive term towards a black indigenous person. Y'all, I just read y'all the 3 modern definitions for the N-word. It does not mean lazy. It does not mean ignorant. A lot of people, the N-word just means a lazy or ignorant person. It doesn't. You got to get my book, NGR, What Does It Mean? An expose on the N-word from a hip-hop perspective, to learn more. Thank you, Afroman. Thank you, Poetic Flacco, for the video. Tap in. Please go run out to Amazon and get the book so you can be educated and control the narrative. Remember, spread love, not hate, because we need more love than hate. We got enough haters already, don't we? Yeah, I think so. Peace and love, y'all.